The company's called Confluence. I think it's NASDAQ, not New York Stock Exchange. So I need to fix that. But I'm not at all going to take credit for finding this company. Yasser El-Shemi found this company and brought it to the Fool. I was lucky enough to read a research report that he wrote. And it is a really neat company. And the way to think about it is it's kind of like becoming the plumbing for data, for how companies deal with data. So if you think about data and businesses and how they handle it, you have all of these different things. So, right. So you have apps or applications or software tools within a department where data comes in. Maybe it's customer acquisition, maybe it's sales pricing, maybe it's marketing results, maybe it's inventory, all of these different pieces of data, right? One department might have multiple applications, and they're sending the data to this databases, right? So you've got different files for these different databases. The company's got half a dozen departments. Before you know it, you've got 10, 15, 20 different software applications, all generating data. It's all in different file formats. It's going to live in a database. And then you have a data warehouse, right? So maybe it's in the cloud, maybe it's on Proximity, right? The company has their own internal infrastructure where they're storing this data. So anyway, data goes to this place. And the way analytics is done today, the way data analysis is handled is historically, the data all goes to this place, right? After the fact, the experts do whatever they do, their magic, and do their analysis and figure out how to leverage that data in some way, right? They use that data typically after the fact. Confluent, their goal, their whole motto is data in motion. And the idea is real-time data streaming. So instead of dealing as data as these static files, it's treating it like a text message coming in. It's like treating it like a data stream so that companies can take that data in real time and from the very moment that data is acquired, start leveraging it, start using it in some way. So real-time data is so powerful, right? And the other thing is that with their tools, it's ubiquity of the file type and the source, right? So that's really powerful. So instead of having to peel apart all these layers of data after the fact in all these different formats, dealing with it all as soon as it comes in is vastly, vastly more powerful in terms of being able to act on it immediately or decide what to do with it immediately, right? Now, Confluent's a really neat company. It was actually founded by the creators of the platform that they're built on. It's built on Apache Kafka, which is the largest open source data streaming technology. So its three founders came from LinkedIn, and they were heavily involved in IP and data infrastructure, and they built Apache Kafka, this open source tool to deal with a problem at LinkedIn that there were no products on the market available to address. So they built this great tool, they made it open source, put it out there for developers to be able to use and improve. And then they had a realization. This is incredible. We have a business. They left LinkedIn and they started Confluent. So Confluent, started by the founders, the creators of Kafka, which is it's the largest open source data streaming technology. And they're the real experts in this open source tool, right? So how big is the market? This year or last year, it was a $50 billion market. It's expected to reach $92 billion by 2024, continue growing. Confluent's still a small company. Trailing 12-month revenue through the third quarter, which ended in September, $338 million. That was up 58%. Confluent Cloud, so its cloud version of this tool was up 175%. The revenue from that was up 175%. Again, it's software as a service. It's a high margin product, 69.4% gross margins last quarter. And they're generally trending higher. So here's the thing, right? So this is the largest open source tool. That in and of itself means that there's kind of built-in competition. There are plenty of companies that are building their own tools on Kafka to do this, right? That are not looking for somebody else to help manage it, right? So there's immediately internally developed competition. And then it's a very competitive market. Microsoft, you guys have heard of Microsoft, right? Azure has a data streaming tool. Amazon has a proprietary data streaming platform as well. But the estimates are that like half of the new data streaming applications that are going to be built going forward are going to be built on Apache Kafka. It is a massive, massive segments of this market that's going to be built on this open source platform. That by itself puts these folks in a really, really, really strong position to take a substantial share of this market. Danny?
So let me ask a question here, because I have to be honest. The first time I read the description of what this company does, I came away shaking my head going, wait, what?
Yep.
And you're right. This is definitely something that's not easy to wrap your head around. So let me see if I got this right. This is a company that enables streaming of data from a variety of sources so that it can be analyzed at the same time or in real time. Is that accurate?
That's exactly right. Here's this, maybe this will help a little bit. This is from their presentation, right? So this shows you what's happening. So you have that real-time data that's coming in, and companies can build, here's the key thing, right? So companies can build rules, they can build actions to happen depending on where the data is coming from, right? For some things, you just, the answer of what needs to be done with is it needs to be sent to a database, right? It needs to be sent to a warehouse. Every piece of data doesn't need to be acted on immediately, but it allows the company to find that small percentage of data that time is very sensitive and important, and that it can leverage it more quickly and act on it quickly, immediately, right? Versus a day later, a week later, because you think about the way analytics typically happens is it's these static queries that happen after the fact. So they've got another cool slide that I like right here, right? So this shows like the giant digital mess, right? So you have these different departments, right? And then you've got, the public cloud over here, and you've got your databases, you've got your apps, you've got your software as a service here, all this stuff that goes to the data warehouse. And you might have one data warehouse for the whole company. You might have multiple data warehouses on top of internal databases. And basically it acts as a central nervous system. So this is Confluent right here. It's acting as a central nervous system, and it's making it easier for the company and more effective at dealing with that data, not just immediately, but down the road as well, right? It positions every company to leverage its data in a more effective way.
It certainly seems interesting, and I'm going to have to look at it again and see if I can come away with a better understanding, because right now I'm still shaking my head a little.
It's not easy. It's not an easy one to wrap your head around, right? I think the biggest thing, and this is something management talks about, is that what they're trying to accomplish is a paradigm shift in the way companies deal with data, moving from data at rest to data in motion. It is a real paradigm shift. So a couple of data points to kind of help maybe wrap your head around it. So there's something like 60,000 IT professionals that participate in Kafka, that are part of the meetups and in the community that use it. Something like 70% of Fortune 500 companies have an iteration of Kafka that they're using for something already, right? A lot of it's things that they've built internally that they're using. 80% of the Fortune 100 uses it to some extent. And again, that big point that 50% of new applications are going to be built on Kafka. Confluent is so well positioned as the expert for the companies that they want software as a service, right? Whether they have data that's proximate or they're in the cloud, Confluent is the company. I mean, they're the experts to be able to host and manage and run this for companies that don't want to take this giant bite and do it themselves.
And I think one of the attractions of a company like this is if you're talking about, the old Mark Andreessen quote, "Software is eating the world."
Mhm.
Well, if software is eating the world, you have all this software, you have all this data, you have all this information, and it doesn't do you a bit of good unless you can make sense of it.